We're live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture. And before I introduce my guest, and I'm sure everybody knows who he is at this point, there's a bunch of links up above. Actually, click them and buy something from Zenescope.com. Preferably, it is New Comic Book Wednesday, and I know a bunch of stuff came out. So without further ado, I have one of the co-founders, Ralph Tedesco, back on. So welcome back, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
we weren't having any technical difficulties at all.
Oh yeah. We got this thing just so quick, just on the fly, in which we are so professional at this, and we put Chuck Garza to shame.
Chuck Garza.
So obviously there's a lot going on with Zenescope, and I think the first thing I want to talk about with you is the Kickstarter, because I know it's up in about 19 hours. It's over 60K, and it's Van Helsing. And so what is going on with this? I know it's the first, I think, 9 volumes up to, I think, issue 50, a little bit maybe even past issue 50. And obviously, this is an awesome project. People love Van Helsing. Obviously, you guys were involved in the sci-fi show that I think is just starting to wrap up. And so what is this like to bring this to fruition?
The Kickstarter is strictly for the box set of our comic book series that's been going on now. I mean, I lost count. We have a ton of, this is for nine graphic novels, but we have so much more content coming out. So we just decided to do a box set of all of those graphic novels put together. We thought that would be fun, and like it does cost a ton of money to do these box sets. So, you know, if we're able to pre-sell some of them, it helps alleviate that cost. I mean, we probably, in reality, when you're doing some of these box sets, like the goal you hit is not anywhere close to the cost. I think our goal was initially $10,000. We knew we could print it, but it's nice to be able to like hedge your bets a little bit and sell as close to the amount of books you're going to be able to print. So like the idea would be, hey, if we can hit, say, 50,000, we're closer to that print goal, and we will have, you know, we'll be able to make this work. If we only hit the $10,000 goal, it would have been troubling. But you take.
I know all about Kickstarter.
You take the chance and you see what happens. But we knew with some of the incentives and pledges that we can hit close to the 50, if not 60 or 70. We have a few hours left. It was funded in the first hour, so that was cool.
And the reason why I bring this up is that for those who don't know, some of the Van Helsing graphic novels are really hard to track down. They're out of print and they're almost impossible. And then I think 2 or 3 of them actually were never printed at the same time. And that's the other thing too, is that if you want a physical copy of, I think, the last 2 or 3 graphic novels, that was never printed before, and this is the only way to get it. And obviously, we're going to dive into something in a few minutes here, and there's a reason why I'm bringing it up. So what is that like? Because it is also a way to sell directly to consumer, and it's part of this is brand new or really hard to find.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about this Kickstarter that I think is very important for people to understand who haven't backed it. If you're a big Van Helsing fan, this is going to be probably the easiest way how to find these books and everything. And it's also really nicely put together.
We have a nice dog cameo too. We have a cat. What is it? I can't even think of the word. When an endorsement by your puppy. No, I mean, this is the only way to get them right now. We'll probably be bringing them, I'm sure, when conventions start back up. Knock on wood. We were supposed to do New York Comic. We won't have it for New York Comic Con this year, but by next year, as Comic Cons ramp back up, we'll be able to bring these to conventions as well. But this is the start. To get in at this price with these pledges is the best way to do it. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but
yeah. And so obviously I just want to show some of this stuff because it's also brand new covers. And obviously I'm probably doing this somewhat out of order, but this is also all the brand new covers on it. They all are very uniformed.
Yeah.
And there's also, for those that this is $125, it is pricey, but there's also just the digital side of this. For for $24. Where if you just want to read this stuff and you want a PDF, there's a digital side to it.
You can do the cheaper version. Just get all the PDFs if you like reading them on your computer or on your tablet, on your phone. So, that's the basic version where you'd still be able to get the stories. If you're not
even to go further, in which I know that Zenescope has a big international audience, but shipping right now is a bitch. I have friends who took them a month to find a boat to produce a D&D game. And it took them a month to find a boat to ship it back to the States, let alone getting it out to their consumers. And so they're actually 2.5 months behind because they couldn't find a boat. And it's kind of a crazy entity when you start dealing with that. And while shipping things, super hard. And even in the States, it's getting harder to ship things right now.
It's tough. It's not been easy. Shipping costs are really high now. It's the number one issue, I think, in a lot of businesses right now is shipping. And it's tough on the business side because we're not Amazon, so you can't just eat shipping costs for everything either without the product increasing in pricing. So there's always there's always something, but it is what it is. At this point, hopefully that's something that's gets back to normal sometime soon.
And then obviously I want to back out of shipping because shipping is not fun, because the fun side of Kickstarter is all of the pledges. So obviously this is the box set / digital side of things where it's a little bit higher up, and where you're getting, the box set, you're getting an art print, and you're also getting the whole digital thing, so you don't have to open up your nice copy. There's also just the regular box set, which comes with I believe the Sankumanaki print. And then we get into the fun stuff here, which is all of like the mini metal art stuff and the mini metal, print set and the metal card set, and obviously all these covers. And then we get into this stuff, which is all the exclusive covers. And then obviously this has some Z-rated stuff in it. And so this is what people really love with Zenescope. And a lot of it is Van Helsing, and a lot of people involved, Sankumanaki, Elias Chazoudis, So what was this like? Because these are super limited as well, where there's only, I think, 200 of some of these and 100 of some of these books out there. And that's what people love this stuff on Kickstarter. Oh,
yeah. I mean, the collectible covers, all that stuff is always a great incentive for fans because, if we're doing it very limited run, those are just going to, as you know quite well, those will be going up in value, or at least retaining their value, if not going up in value, really quickly. So, when we do these limited edition Sun covers or whoever, whatever artists we usually get on our books, those covers are highly valuable. If you're not a collector of our books, then you may not even be watching us right now, but maybe you are, and you're like, what are you talking about? But I think we, the nice thing with the Kickstarter is we do offer some of these books that you wouldn't be able to get elsewhere. So it's worthwhile pledging, even if you could care less about the box set, which I hope that's not the case. But if you're a collector and a reader, which we do have that too, we have people who do both, you're in a win-win. So I think it's just a great incentive for people who don't necessarily, are just getting into collecting or are seasoned collectors to pledge.
And that's one of the things that I also like about these collectible covers, because obviously I back a lot of Kickstarters and I'm very much in the indie world. And, sometimes a cover doesn't make any sense. And I find that these covers make sense with this box set.
Right.
It's kind of a nice thing. And then also you have people like Elias Chazoudis and Sankumanaki who are not necessarily, doing the Marvel DC route, but they're doing more of the Zenescope route. And it's kind of nice when it's also sort of Zenescope originals doing a lot of these covers as well. And it's really cool to see that. And people who've been working with you guys forever doing something, because it's sort of an element of prestige added to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's fun working with these artists and finding newer artists too to work on covers. got people like Sun. I mean, Sun's been doing covers for us for like I guess a couple years now, and or a little over a couple years now, and she's just been turned into like one of our superstar artists over almost overnight in a way. And she's fairly new to the comics, but she's one of those people who kind of soared through the ranks, so to speak, quickly.
Yeah, and then even going further, and obviously there's some art print stuff with her, and then there's obviously some metal stuff, and there's a variety of different Sun things in there. And obviously people can pledge at a variety of different levels as well. And even to go even further, there's obviously you could go from everywhere from $24 all the way up to like $750, I think.
Yeah,
in the $1,000. I'm not exactly sure where it maxes out, but there's all sorts of stuff that can be granted. Random Z-rated covers, 100 print covers. I don't think there's a showcase. I don't think there's a showcase this round.
No, there's no showcase, showcase covers are just a different paper quality, very thick paper printing, and they're ultra limited as well. But I don't know if those are up for a pledge reward.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I don't think they are. And obviously, even going beyond this, is that there's also some add-ons as well with some of these items, as well as pins and some other things that you could pick up. There's no shot glass. There is a really cool old school frosted Van Helsing hat shot glass that's dope, and you can't get that. I know that much. And so I'm sorry to everybody who really wants to drink and read their comics. You're upset just as I am. I promise. But the reason why I bring all this up is that a lot is going on with Van Helsing right now in the Zenescope world. And this Kickstarter, the way I view it, is almost the catch-up point for every new reader and every new person who wants to come in, or for people who might have missed a bunch of stuff.
Right.
We were speaking about this at the last virtual con. But obviously we have Van Helsing versus the Invisible Woman coming out.
And just came out today.
So it just came out today. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. But it's that idea where this is now sort of also, it's somebody from Van Helsing's past. There's a personal grudge going on. And some of it is sort of rooted in all of these issues that are being released now or re-released on the Kickstarter. And so this is very much an expansion of your world. And so that's why I bring all this up. And that's why I think this Kickstarter is so relevant right now, is that everything that you're doing in the next 2-3 years, I feel, is adding to the already existing world. And this is the fastest way how to catch up. So what is that like for you? Because you're in a position where you're the watcher now. You and Joe are the watcher in the Zenescope universe in a lot of ways, much like the Marvel has a watcher.
I mean, as far as, do you mean watcher as far as like we kind of like oversee?
You're the overseer.
Overseers. Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's the best way I can say it. It's nice. We have, our team of writers now, writers and editors, where it starts with Dave Franchini and now David Wall, who is our new editor-in-chief. Dave Franchini is our new publisher. And working with them really closely on creating the storylines for the year. And like what we'll do is we try to do it at least twice a year. Sometimes we do it like every quarter if we have the time. We meet a lot via Zoom because David Wall's in Los Angeles. I'm currently in Texas, in Austin. So, and Joe and David are back in Joe and Dave Franchini are in Philly. So what we'll do is we'll meet in person. We just had our most recent story conference in, mid-July, about 2 weeks ago, where we met and discussed most of our 2022 plans, and we put in place sort of all the books, start cracking some of the stories. This is obviously a big shared universe that we now have. So it's a lot of like figuring out what each story is building to, where each character is in their current situation and their current lot in life, really, where they are mentally, and then where they are as far as like who they're gonna go up against, and what will they learn from these sort of battles they have, or whoever they're facing off against. So I think, like, for us, it's just a lot of fun to not have to necessarily worry ourselves about writing everything like we used to in the old days. But it's a lot of fun to like create the story, to bounce ideas off one another. It's really also interesting with David Wall coming in fresh. So he knows our universe a little bit, so he had to play catch up, and he's learning it as we go, but he's able to kind of give us a fresh set of eyes on some of these characters. And then it's like, really, yeah, I mean, once we crack some of the stories, or we outline it, say we outline a story like The Invisible Woman, Joe and I, our main bulk of our work there on that is done. We'll have our input, and then Dave Franchini or Dave Wall now will hand that off to a writer, unless Joe's writing it or unless I'm writing it, which happens sometimes, where Joe is very, very much into writing a lot of the Grimm universe stuff. I do here and there, like I'll write some here and there. Like I don't write as much as Joe does on the Grimm universe side in terms of like our original horror titles or original books. That's more in my wheelhouse lately. But I do jump in for certain Grimm titles. Like I was supposed to write the new Hellchild coming out later this year, but then because I jumped to another series that's going to take a lot more of my time, Pat Shan's now writing that. But the bottom line is, once we crack the story, 90% of the time Joe and I are sort of finished with our part in that, unless we're writing it. Sometimes with certain stories, we will have more involvement depending on how big of a story it is, or maybe we have some sort of a emotional attachment to the character. Like as in this new Hellchild series that Pat's writing, I'm going to be on the chain to give notes for the script and be a little bit more hands-on, because I wrote the last Hellchild book called Hellchild Blood Money, where a lot of the mythology was sort of rebooted. So because this is a direct sequel, I felt a little bit more attached to it. So I will give Pat, or I'll probably give Dave notes, and then Dave will then hand off his and my notes together, or Dave and my notes to Pat, and then Pat will, crush it, because he usually does. But like, it really is fun to be able to hand off a lot of this stuff and allow David and Dave to, have the ability to like control some of the where the universe is going. And allowing them to work with these new writers. That was super long-winded. I'm sorry.
It's all good, because one of the things that I really like about where the Grimm universe is going at this point is that, it's now all starting to be connected together. And even in The Invisible Woman, obviously we're going back to, Van Helsing's past, and there's a personal grudge that's sort of embedded in a bunch of these stories with The Invisible Woman. And then that's becoming connected. And now, prior to this, and I say this, and it might sound a little politically incorrect, prior to this, a lot of this stuff that, I felt that I could just, skip 6 issues in Van Helsing, and I could read, volume 1 of Van Helsing and then go to volume 4, and I wouldn't miss too much. But now the way I feel is that this is now becoming that volume 2 and 3, and you can't now skip away, and that you actually, with a lot of these stories, need to know the backstory. And it really finds that I find the world becoming richer with this, and obviously with, League of Monsters returning, parts 1 and 2. That's sort of the thing too, where now you need to know the back stuff, and I think that's
it definitely helps. I mean, we try to make everything new reader friendly as possible, because there are people jumping in and jumping on the later books, and then you don't want to alienate people who haven't read everything. So, you might read the story and realize, okay, I'm missing some things here, but I get the gist of what this is. This is really cool. I'd like to go back and read more about that character. That's what we try to do a lot of times with the characters. depending on which character it is, especially. But yeah, I mean, like it's hard because, and now we're doing a lot of these larger book formats, right? So a lot of the quarterly books and like the quarterlies that are like oversized. So we're doing some 72-page book, the annuals, just bigger page counts, and they're telling a whole arc in one shot. It's basically like mini graphic novels we're starting to publish with these bigger books that we're doing. We're doing a lot of that now, especially with the Grimm characters. Except for Grimm Fairy Tales, the main title, the main Grimm Fairy Tales title is still a monthly. It's a 22-page monthly book, 32 pages printed, but 22 pages of story, which is a standard comic format. Actually, some people do 20 pages now. I think Marvel does 20 pages.
And obviously jumping into those quarterly things, obviously we're having Zodiac versus Death Force, and I sort of tip my hat a little bit where Death Force, for those who don't know, was I think 5 issues, and I think that was where it was at. And I enjoyed Death Force, and I found Death Force fun, but I didn't know exactly how it connected into the Grimm universe, per se. And then Zodiac was also sort of playing on the outskirts. And obviously, I had Dan Wickline on, and certain characters he's done, like Sinbad, is playing on the outskirts of what I feel is the Grimm universe. And now this book is bringing them front and center. And then also, there's the, Blade from Wonderland is in play, which now means that there's a whole another world coming in where Wonderland and elements of Wonderland are coming in. And obviously, for those who know the Grimm universe, that Blade does things in Wonderland that doesn't do elsewhere. And this book isn't fluff. And, well, obviously, what is that like to bring characters now sort of front and center into the world? And there's consequences for, well, what I'm going to imagine for, Robin Hood and Van Helsing and possibly the Brittany Waters and a variety of other characters because of this fight. I'm in this world because this fight is going to have results that are changing it, not to mention who's playing who's playing strings. And obviously, I don't know exactly, and I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to push you to ruin anything, but clearly this is now becoming that the outskirts of what I feel the Grimm universe is now coming into more front and center.
Sure. I mean, it's always building toward, you always have to build towards something big. And I think like that's what we've been doing for a long time with a lot of these characters and introducing, a lot. We decided a while back, like the universe itself, the shared universe with all of our main characters. The fun in the shared universe is really about introducing villains, like playing with different types of villains, and having it was just a way for us to build the world out and introduce just a lot of new characters, and then play with. Then we get to play in the sandbox with those characters that we introduced over the years, and that's where we're at now, of like building to that next big event. There's always been like a big event we've gotten to. Like in the past, we had the Dream Eater saga, which I think was our very first like crossover event, where all our characters crossed over for the first time. And then we did the Shadowlands, which was the Being and him and his storyline, and now it's like this is a new iteration of that. It's just being done a little bit differently than in years past. Now that we have these standalone issues, but these characters might all be appearing in different books, so we're able to cross them over seamlessly, hopefully, and still again allowing there's some room for new readers to jump in and not be totally lost.
And so what I love about this stuff, and maybe I'm the odd one out, is that I love the fact that, Death Force, was, what it is. Something like Black Sable was very much sort of like, a short thing on the outskirts. And now all this stuff now can potentially, with this book, come into play. And, for me as a reader, and obviously I'm a reader, I'm a collector in Zenescope, it's cool to see something that I thought wouldn't be seen in front and center because Robin Hood and Van Helsing, Belle, Dorothy, all those characters are sort of well liked and they're front and center. Obviously Selma is front and center. I don't think that's any secret. I think those are the 5 most popular Zenescope characters, and obviously Van Helsing and Robin I think are top 2 or 3 easily. And then Wonderland obviously is Wonderland, and that's just perfect. That entire thing is perfect in so many ways. But it's the idea that now it's nice to see all the other stuff that I just picked up, and that obviously I read on Comixology, a lot of this stuff to now come in and be relevant. And I'm like, oh man, every single gear is being connected.
Yeah, we're trying to not leave too much dangling. That you have some older stuff that sometimes. Yeah, we even went back to, where I was trying to think. Oh, Carrie's like with our new Tales of Terror series that's coming out soon. We went back to the year 10 Death one shot, which was a one shot I wrote 6 years ago. That kind of didn't, we left it dangling, and we didn't ever have a sequel to where that was going. And now we're bringing in we're ushering in like the sequel finally 6 years later for that one shot from back then. So like we are trying to not have so many loose ends now on some of our books, and continue those stories and link up those characters, and even the Fringe universe characters like you mentioned. Like there's Death Force and Zodiac. I mean, Zodiac was never meant to be a Fringe character, but we weren't sure what was going to happen with Death Force because, again, we're known for female badass characters in our female universe. And then when you introduce somebody like Death Force, which is more of like a Punisher type character, a male Punisher type, like you don't know how people are going to respond to that. And especially with the readers of our universe, you just never know, and you hope people will support it and buy it. And we did. We went out on a little bit of a limb with the Death Force versus Zodiac, just because you don't know how that's going to be. Accepted,
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, Zenescope is known for female characters or cover art. I think it's not a secret. I don't think anybody's going to pretend here. I know how I got into Zenescope is clearly cover art, and then I became a reader secondary. And, obviously, and I'm very, very thrilled with things like Van Helsing and Robin Hood. And Wonderland in particular is sort of, my 3 go-tos. And then obviously I'm reading the French stuff, and I like Neverland. I enjoyed Sinbad. I enjoyed Death Force. I haven't read Zodiac yet. I just know that I'm probably going to enjoy it. And then I really enjoyed Black Sable in a lot of ways. So it's like I like a lot of these French characters. And then, because it's cool. And then also I get a bigger glimpse of the world as well that they're all playing in, which is awesome in its own right as well. And I'm the type of person that you get me on the fish line, I'm on the fish line for a while, and then I follow it all the way up, and everything you put in front of me, that's and also having a Comixology subscription is really helpful because you guys have a lot of content. And it would be way too expensive for me to go on Amazon or Zenescope.com where you could buy all your books. And if you're not VIP, $99, everybody, $99.
No, you gotta be a VIP. Especially if you're collecting at all, you need to join VIP. It just doesn't make sense too. I see a question from Chicago Infinity. I guess this is Chuck. Chuck Garza.
He's Chuck Garza. Who
Garza's on the line.
If Chuck Garza doesn't subscribe to my channel, I will hunt you down and make you.
Is he in Austin? Chuck, how about The Courier? The Courier is a trilogy. The second one just came out this past year. When the heck did that come out? Last year? What year is it? So Courier Liberty, that's not in the universe. That's actually outside the Grimm universe. So The Courier is about Eve Harper. I don't know if you've read it, Andrew.
I've read the first one.
The second one, Liberty and Death, came out, I think, the end of 2020 then.
I have the first one in graphic novel format because I redeemed my VIP points from the old program and picked up the first one. And then I have the other the second one because it's a 3-part series and things, and then I'm going to be reading that after I read the first one. But I just have the, I guess, floppies for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So the second one, Liberty and Death, was a 3-issue. It was 3 issues originally, and then which is 3 bigger issues. So instead of 5 22 pages, we did 3 36 pages, I think, something like that. So the third of the trilogy should be out in 2022, most likely.
And to even talk about that, because obviously there's other things in the Zenescope universe. There's stuff in the Zenescope universe, and then there's things outside of it. Obviously, Courier is outside of the traditional Zenescope universe, as I like to dub it. I think, I'm not too sure where Possession or Possessive
New series Possessive, which is we're doing a lot of this new. We're doing a lot of. We've always done a lot of horror stuff, like straight horror that was not necessarily in the universe. Grim Tales of Terror kind of walks the line. Carries is part of the Grimm universe, so she appears in the Grimm universe. So I guess technically Tales of Terror is a Grimm universe title, even though it
walks the line, right?
Like it's an anthology series, really, about like it's sort of like a Tales from the Crypt or Twilight Zone. But we started doing more of the horror stuff and the comedy horror stuff, which is where Possessive kind of lives, which is we've talked about it before on our virtual streams. It's Adam F. Goldberg and Hans Rodionoff. They wrote our last series, Conspiracy. So Conspiracy was about. It was a kind of anthology. It was like not really anthology, but part anthology. And it took like conspiracy theories, like the Illuminati, also aliens, and then broke it down. Each issue was a different sort of conspiracy theory within that realm. So the Illuminati was like 5 different, like I guess, conspiracies about the Illuminati that you might have heard, and then this through story sort of connects that.
Lucifer was in there.
Who? Oh, right. So then Hans, are you okay, Angie? Drinking? Hans brought Adam on board for Aliens, and then Adam, who created the Goldbergs, if you guys watch the Goldbergs, him and Hans pitched me Possessive, which was, if you read it, it's kind of dark, really dark comedy about this loser who buys a house and then a spirit lives there and haunts them, and then he ends up befriending the spirit eventually, I guess you can say. But I like that's one of the stories I was very hands-on in with them to kind of bounce. I mean, they're both professional writers. That's what Adam Goldberg's a showrunner. Hans has written a bunch of scripts. It's cool to work with them because they know they're very open to notes. They're not snobby. I found writers who take notes personally or get very push back a lot on your notes. Those are like usually writers that aren't doing much or are way too I guess the word, I don't know what the word would be, but like these guys are different. Like they're very give and take, very open to notes. So they've been really fun to work with. So we hopefully will do more with Adam and with Hans.
And even to go further into this, because this is not the first 3-part series. Obviously, Courier is 3 parts. Man, Goat, and Bunny Man, is 3 parts. I don't know what Bachelorette Party is going to look like.
That'll be a one-shot. That's a one-shot. 7. It's a long one-shot though. It's like a miniature graphic novel, which is a Tales of Terror story. That was fun to crack. So was Man, Goat, and the Bunny Man. I mean, that thing took off. I mean, we really sold out of that book on every level. So we'll be printing that as a trade soon with bonus story in the trade because it's out of print. Like the issue 1, I think, and issue 2 are both sold out. So
issue 2, Josh Byrne pull a Katie Forbes, and if anybody knows who Katie Forbes is, I'm not even joking. It looks like Katie Forbes.
Is that the one with the mirror, the bunny in the mirror?
So
no,
that's for Vera.
You're talking about the one with the bunny over her head.
No. It's Josh Burns, and she's got like a almost like a shirt that says it, but it's like in like neon.
Yeah,
and it's issue 1.
Where she's holding the bunny, the stuffed bunny, right?
Maybe, and it looks like Katie Forbes. It looks like Katie Forbes. It's like if you took Katie Forbes and just like put a dark filter over her and basically didn't put Katie Forbes in a bikini, that'd be Katie Forbes. It's a Katie Forbes cover.
I have to look up Katie Forbes now. I'll look it up. Forbes. Katie Forbes.
So it looks exactly like her. And she was
the first Katie Forbes that came up as a Scottish politician who served as a cabinet secretary.
So for those,
I don't think it's this Katie Forbes you're talking about. That's
no. Katie Forbes is married to Rob Van Dam right now, wrestler Rob Van Dam from like ECW back in the day. It's crazy who Katie Forbes looks like. And if I ever get Josh Byrne as an interview, I'm going to ask him all about Katie Forbes, and I'm going to talk about it.
Don't even know. Is she a wrestler?
Yeah, she's a wrestler.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Got it.
This is so bad at so many levels.
I don't even know what you're saying anymore, Andrew. You've lost me. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I've been lost for years. It's all right.
Where were we? We were talking about
So to even talk about the 3-part stuff, because I love the fact that a 3-part comic series is long enough that I'm interested, but it's not too long where I then feel like I have 50 issues to collect and then I get lost. Not to mention that economically, a 50-issue series after a while, after 8 years, you could get very lost very quickly in a 50-issue series, especially if it's starting at issue 1 and then 12 issues get produced every single month. It's going to take a while to get it done versus 3 months or 4 months.
Fairy Tales. Grim Fairy Tales were at 16 years straight. So we did a lot. So if you were collecting Grim Fairy Tales from issue 1, you really jumped in. Who knew? On the regular series itself, we're up to what, 175-ish issues just of the regular series.
And so for me, I mean, obviously there are ways where you can read all this stuff very cheaply digitally, but to collect the series and also be committed.
Chuck has every singles book, he said.
Well, Chuck, good for you, man. Good for you.
The early ones could be worth some money too.
The J Company early ones are worth money.
Or J Company is now defunct.
That's going old school comic.
Defunct. Yeah, those guys. I think they're defunct. I don't know.
It's like Blue Griffin too. That's going old school.
Defunct. Yeah. 2 defunct. And then there was another one. Yeah, they used to do sort of. I mean, there's other companies that do this now. That sort of build. It's so weird. Looking back, I kind of wonder if we would do the same way. We would do those things the same way with those companies. They were just kind of what they. Can't really explain it. I won't get into it.
All I know is that
the Dynamic Forces is actually Dynamite, a subsidiary of Dynamite Entertainment, which is Nick Barucci, who we know well, and he does Dynamic Forces, which has been around a long time too. And so these companies, some of these companies will brand, will book their own cover art on your comic book. It's kind of odd. It's a weird model. I mean, it works because they don't have to put a lot of money out because they don't have to worry about publishing. Um,
I'm entering that stage eventually, more on the indie front. I'm very open about it, and so I'm learning all about it and how complicated variant is. Printing, it's super complicated. I know a lot of stuff that I don't want to talk about publicly about this because it's a very complicated business and it gets very tricky. And printing is fascinating once you start diving into it. Variant production is a whole interesting conversation. And then even what makes a great cover and all that stuff. And also, then you get into first prints, second prints, ninth prints, especially when you deal with companies like Marvel, DC, and even Image, it becomes a whole different ballgame. And
I mean, it's interesting. And there are companies that are small that will print like a really low print run and then be like, we sold out our first printing, and then they'll print another. It's almost like they do it to say they're gonna, to be able to say they sold out because it sounds great. That happens too. I mean, we legit sold out of our Mango and the Bunny Man, and we were like, we didn't even go to reprint because we knew we were just gonna have to go to the trade at some point anyway.
There's a reason why some of those books are going for like $12-15. That Katie Forbes book, it's a $12 book on eBay. Katie Forbes, wrestler Katie Forbes.
I don't see this at all.
If you go on eBay, that Katie Forbes cover B book is going for $10 to $12.
Yeah, I know the book. I just don't see her likeness. It's weird. I'm looking at her for you.
If you would like to be happy, Ralph, maybe you shouldn't see. I'm just saying.
I just don't. I don't know if I get it. I know the cover.
And so my point is that I think it's very, very cool that book sold out. I have my copies. I have like 4 copies of that book, and it's just because I like Josh Burns' work a lot, and it's an awesome series in a lot of ways. I thoroughly enjoyed Man, Goat, and Bunny. And then obviously Bachelorette is going to be fun to read because
that book.
Yeah, that book.
Yeah, the stuffed bunny.
And I love the cover. I love the fact that it's just a Josh Burns and it's a fun cover.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, I thought originally talking about this cover, which is that's a different one. I
like that cover too, and I'm happy about that cover.
This cover kind of went nuts too for us, which is hilarious because it's just a.
I like the backside of that cover, but that's a different discussion as well.
That was one of the most fun series I've worked on in a while. Like just having like a goofy time with the story and just writing, sitting there while Joe was writing out issue 1 while Dave and I were like throwing ideas out during that session. That was last December at our story conference, and we were just, Joe was like typing it out on his iPad, and we were like throwing out silly ideas, like the scene where a monster hunter is tracking the Bunny Man, and he like bites into like the poop, and he tastes the poop as if that would tell him that this is like. We were like all so giddy by that point because we were like sleep deprived and working all day, and we were like, I hope this is as funny as we think it is. But it seemed to go well.
I mean, I read half these interviews intoxicated, so it's all good.
I could go on for stories. Yeah, so we've been working on a lot of different types of storylines with the idea of like really diversifying our line, and like we want to continue to show people that we're not just the awesome cover company, which
are what is known as cheesecake. And I'm going to sort of go right to the point where, because one of the things, and I speak to a lot of people, is that I say, hey, Zenescope's a really cool company. They're like, oh, you mean the company that has the sexy girls on? I'm like, have you read a Zenescope book? They're like, no. And I'm like, why don't you go on Comixology, spend $6.37, and actually read Robin Hood, the first issue? or the first 5 issues. And if you don't like it at that point, maybe it's not your cup of tea.
Right.
Why don't you say, hey, look, I understand initially what people think. Because it's kind of like you see something and, if it looks like, something, it could be that. But then what winds up happening is that when you start reading, you're like, wait a second, Robin Hood actually is a troubled character who is a strong female character. And, a lot of people I speak to, if they're really like, this is interesting. It's not what I expected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's exact. Oh, okay. We have to give a shout out to somebody who's watching. I think it's our wonderful, amazing marketing specialist. Amber Curtis is currently watching us, I think. So Amber, if you're watching still, why don't you say hi to us? Because Chuck's in our comments here, and he's alone, and he needs some company in the comments.
I also need the engagement. So
Amber saw our post on Zenescope site that we put up at the last minute. Yeah, but to get back to what you were saying, yeah, I think that's our sort of initiative and this was sort of something Amber and I spoke about recently, and just getting the word out to more readers and new readers to kind of let them know that we're more than just, cheesecake covers. And that's only a small part of what we do. So I think that's important to really, really try to get that sort of narrative out there, so people will start to see that we have really cool stories on top of the cheesecake stuff, or the covers, which aren't going anywhere either. So whatever. I don't know.
And this is something that I thoroughly enjoy about Zenescope, because obviously I like looking at art. I can't draw for anything.
Me neither.
And so I can't do what Josh Burns does. I can't do what Sun Kumanaki does. I cannot do what Ebass does. I can't do what Keith Garvey does.
Not many can, to be honest.
I can't even do 1%. Okay,
I can't either. I'm the same. I can figure, but I'm really good at giving notes, and I'm good at knowing what I want. It's just sort of like Simon Cowell. I'm like the guy who doesn't have the talent there, but I know how to.
So I'm very good at telling Chazus what I want for a commission. And with shit, I'm like, hey, I want this, and I know what makes a good cover. I just can't do it. And so it's just one of those things. And also it's the idea. And I think a lot of people who pick up Zenescope covers know exactly what makes a good cover and what makes a bad cover. And so there's certain things that I see it, and I see it from a mile out when you guys are doing the virtual streams. And I'm like, that is the cover that everybody's going to want. I can't see it up close. And then when I see it up close, I'm like, I'm 100% right. Because there are some amazing covers out there.
Yeah.
And so that's funny. That's just funny.
That's a lie. She's a lie.
It just made my day right there. But
only time I'll ever get a shout out. That's unfair. Unfair and unfounded.
Completely lost my train of thought.
Amber tied me in the bartender competition we had on our virtual stream a couple weeks ago, by the way. I'm very sad about that. I should have won. But you guys might not have seen that, and you don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew. Continue.
No, wow, I just lost my complete train of thought. Amber just,
Well, we were talking about covers and your covers with Elias. But yeah, I mean, just to continue that, I guess the idea would be that we do fight an uphill battle of marketing our books to new readers because of the perception. So it's just a matter of, it's in our hands to have to educate new readers and try to allow them to understand that we're not just sort of, I compared it to recently to cinema. Remember Cinemax? Cinemax used to be called Skinemax, and they'd all just do nudie, soft porn stuff. And then they started doing real programming. years back, and they actually had some really cool shows on the air. And then they became legit. Like people were like watching the Cinemax shows. I kind of want to do that for Zenescope. Not that we ever did comic, like our regular comic books, our stories don't have any sort of like porn element to them. So it's not even, I wouldn't even say we were like Cinemax, because we never went there with the stories. It's just the covers give us the bad rap, the variants.
But I also think that's changing in a lot of ways, where, you guys didn't invent, nudity on comics, but I think you guys definitely helped to mainstream a bunch of it. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of companies, Dynamite does some stuff a little bit here. Obviously, Brian Pulido with Lady Death does it. Boundless Comics is now doing it. And then everybody on Kickstarter is legitimately playing the Zenescope card, because nude covers are now the newest thing on Kickstarter. And I speak to at least 100, indie comic readers a year now, and all of them are now having this debate. And I think it's becoming mainstream. And I think that the stigma attached to it is no longer what it used to be. And it's also a society shift. And, I think not to get, too deep into the weeds there, get too controversial, but, I think there is a big change where I think, from a reading standpoint, I think, it's a little bit of an uphill battle, but I don't think it's as big as it used to be.
I mean, like I
could be wrong, though. I could be completely.
I don't know. I really don't know the answer. I know like there are a lot of companies imitating us. There's also a lot of companies who are happy to confuse the market and make their books look like Zenescope books so they'll sell better. I could call out a few companies that do that, but I won't.
I could call out about 30 Kickstarters that are doing it, and they'll use my friends on Facebook. Which is bad. Which is bad. And I've publicly done it when I'm interviewing them. I say, you're pulling a Zenescope. I've said that. And if people go back into my library, you can see me calling out certain people, not meanly, but I'm saying, hey, you pulled right out of Zenescope's page, right out of their book.
Yeah. It's frustrating a little bit.
They're not taking the art, but they're taking the idea of what sells.
You're taking the idea of what sells. Some people, and then there's some who will go exactly after the same artist that we are always using, and they'll go, okay, this is what's gonna. I'll call it out right now. There's a company, I won't say their name because I don't want to even give them any love, but there's a company that years ago would do exactly that. They were just going after our artists exclusively. And like just any artist that we use, they would just go right to them and then try to offer them a deal. And, I was frustrated initially because I'm like, all right, like, this is BS. Like, but after a while, it's like I knew it was just always going to come. If you're leading the pack at something, that's going to come. So then you accept it and you go.
I know the feeling. There are people
continue to set the standard, and we need to continue to evolve. And then everybody can chase our tail if they want to, and that's what you just have to do as the leader in this industry, in that part of the industry. Look, Marvel's been being chased for 100 years, however long they've been around. So like they deal with that too. Like everybody's chasing everybody else. So like, and there are now. That's not to say there aren't like real scummy people in this industry, because there are, and like. There's like real legit scumbags in this industry that you wouldn't know are scumbags. And like I'm not even talking about the people necessarily imitating us or those public. I'm talking about like the bottom feeder guys. And those guys are always just hanging around, seeing how people are making money and then trying their damnedest to somehow profit off other people's work.
You're not on Kickstarter as much as I am.
I'm not.
In which that I live on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know like what's happening.
It's very easy to see who's doing a nude cover for the whole position of profit and who is doing it just because their consumer wants it. And there's a bunch of shady stuff going on. There's a bunch of stuff that
people see that there's money in it, so they people feel like, oh, there's money in it. there's not, no one's getting rich off of it, but there's money in it. So like people will always flock. I mean, look, we have people stealing our artwork for coloring books and putting them on Amazon. Like people will photocopy the pages to our coloring books, and they're up on Amazon as like the Grimm Fairy Tales coloring book. They're not even ours. They're photocopy versions of them, and then we're getting the blowback when these things are not. They're falling apart. They're bad quality. They're copies of a copy. You know what I mean? They're copies of our book. So like we get the blowback, so it doubly hurts us when we have that, and we're always having to police that, or people stealing like our covers and using them for something else. I mean that stuff's happening everywhere, and it's so hard to police. I get messages all the time from like J. Scott Campbell's person, Marilyn, who I'm friends with. She'll see a cover of J. Scott's up somewhere that she knows it's not supposed to be, and she'll send me the link and be like, your Campbell cover is up on this site, and I know this isn't you. This isn't anything to do with you guys. So I'll have to then go and send out a cease and desist to those. Like it's just a constant.
You mean from a sale point, not somebody saying, "Hey, I just got this cool Zenescope J. Scott Campbell cover."
Right. I'm talking about people stealing the.
I want to make sure everybody knows, so nobody
selling it as their own. Right.
I want to make sure, because all of a sudden everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my god, I just got."
No.
Like, oh my god! Like, oh my god! Ralph's gonna send me a cease and desist. Holy shit! Like, making sure on that one.
Unless you're stealing it, no. So yeah, like that's the frustration too. Is like my point is there's always going to be those people who are trying to steal something of yours or make a buck off of something.
I'll tell a quick story that's not Zenescope related, but I know for a fact people from last year and this year, there's been about 30 people that I know who have all started shows in a similar fashion and legitimately have copied my format to the T. And then they copy some of my guests and they try to get some of my guests, and then they have the nerve to ask me, "Hey, how'd you get so-and-so on your show?" And I'm like, you're asking me and certain Zenescope people, and I'm like, so you want to take my idea? You want to
get defensive, right?
And then you want to know how I did it, and then you want to ask me, and you're basically telling me, and you're putting it right in front of my nose.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, and people are bold that way. And like a lot of times people will help other people. I'll help people out if they're asking me a legitimate question that's not like that's something about like not siphoning off what I'm already doing. That's the frustrating part, is like, when people try to make a quick buck off of your hard work, and they're like, oh, or they don't have the interest in trying to do it themselves. They just, like you said, they just want to know how you did it so they can just do exactly what you did.
No, people try to do it better than I can do it. And look, I get the idea that, if you see art, and I look, and if I could draw, I would look at, I'll throw Keith Garvey because I don't think he's going to mind. I would say, man, Keith Garvey can kill it. How do I get to that level? And, as an artist, I understand that, every artist starts out as a tracer. Okay, that's you'll appreciate Chasing Amy, right? Mm-hmm. That's straight out of Chasing Amy. It's the tracer joke. But at a certain point, you can't be a tracer anymore. You have to produce your own thing, and I think that's a big problem in comics right now. Is there's a lot of people who are copying, and there's nobody really innovating. And this is what I like about Zenescope, is that obviously your main universe is very cool, and it's becoming more building on it and richer. But then you have the other alternative stuff, and I find it very innovating.
Chuck, I didn't make a drink for this interview. This is water. I'm not drinking right now. Giving up this. I'm giving up drinking for the day.
So there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and anytime you want to copy me, Ralph, feel free to.
Okay.
You just take right out of the Pop Anime Comics lounge and out of conversation.
I have a question. How did you book me? Because I'm looking to book me for my next interview. So I need to know how you booked me.
What?
You said people are asking you how you booked guests, and I'm asking you how you booked me because I need to book myself for the next interview. It was a joke, Andrew. Just joking, dude.
I can tell the story how the first one came about. If anyone's interested in that. So it was,
you booked me. What was it? I don't remember.
So what happened is that I'm just browsing Facebook and I'm like, let me see if I can get Joe on because I just thought it was interesting. And this was after everybody was sending a bunch of non-damaged books back to Zenescope. That was sort of, there's 25 of them out there and they're all 9.6s. Everybody deal with it. Okay.
Yeah, I can go on another tangent about some things like that, but go ahead.
So certain ones are fair game.
It reminded me of something else, but go ahead.
But certain ones are fair game and certain ones are ridiculous. I know because and everybody's done this. I'm guilty of it too, and I'm the first person to admit it. And I think in the last 2 years, I've only had one issue with Zenescope with a book being bad, and it was when I sent pictures, they were like, "Yeah, you guys agreed completely." But I digress right there. So the way I booked Ralph the first time, for those who are interested, is that I'm browsing around and I'm like, oh, let me just type in, and then all of a sudden what starts happening is that I found your Facebook, and then I just shot you something. I'm like, why would he come on? Zenescope's a big company. They just sold 15 million books. I don't think he's going to come on, but I at least have to try. And then you somehow caught it and you're like, hey, here's my email. Yeah, I'll come on. And so the reason my point is that, though, is that this is what's crazy about my world is half the time if you just ask for something, somebody will be like, yeah, that's how you do it. Like, I'm learning how to create variants and create my own exclusive variants. I'm asking, and I legitimately, obviously I interview people, but then after the interview I say, hey, how'd you do it? How do you book an artist? And people give me a lot of advice because I'm very, very polite and I just simply ask. But that's how I booked you the first time. And it's just a crazy story. Because you just caught it on Facebook.
Yeah, I wouldn't, and sometimes I don't look at messages. It's during the pandemic too, so it's easier to book people during the pandemic now.
And then Jason,
I
didn't accept it.
It's the same way as we do. I'm just messing with you. It's the same way we do with our podcast now. Like Mark Sells, who I co-host the podcast with. He used to produce a podcast. We started the Everything Zen this past year, and we've had some awesome guests. Like Neil LaBute, who's been, if you don't know who Neil LaBute is, he's a playwright, famous playwright. He wrote In the Company of Men, the Aaron Eckhart movie. He did Van Helsing, showrunner for Van Helsing, and we just asked him, and he said yes. It was like simple. Sometimes you just ask, and we had James Marsters from Buffy. Sorry, I'm getting an alert on my phone for something. Blue alert. Huh? I don't even know what a blue alert is. Sorry, I got distracted by a blue alert. You usually get a lot of amber alerts here. Chuck, what's with the amber alerts in Austin? There's so many. I'm not saying, Chuck, you should know Amber. I'm just saying there's a lot. Anyway, sorry, Andrew. I got derailed. Yeah. So sometimes you just have to ask, and you shall.
It's so weird because people say yes all the time. I see people like
they know. Sometimes they ignore you, and that happens too.
I've had people who ignored me, and then I circle back 4 years later, like, yeah, let's do it. So obviously, it's kind of a crazy world I'm in, and I personally don't really like dealing with celebrities all that much. I tend to deal with a lot of voice actors, and that's a whole bunch of fun. I got to do Lisa Ortiz, who plays Amy Rose from Sonic the Hedgehog, and she's directing the voice director on Pokemon on Netflix.
Nice.
So super cool one, and but this isn't about me. This is about Zenescope. It's about you, and obviously lots going on. And I think the other thing that's going on that I sort of want to deal with beyond, I don't know, Grimopoly guys. I think the pre-order's over, but you should still back it and order it. if you can. I don't know if you can, but I figured I would shout it out anyway.
I don't know if I think the pre-order time is done now, if I'm not mistaken. Unless Amber's still watching and she can comment. She might know better than me.
Hey, I'm selling your stuff anyway, guys.
Nice.
So anyway, but even going further, obviously the other big thing that's dropping, I think tomorrow with the Kickstarter, or it might have dropped tonight, is Second Life Zenescope is coming out.
Oh yeah.
And so
super cool. We just posted a video of it on our Twitter. It's up on our Twitter.
So I'm staying away because if I start playing, I will never leave my house again. But
yeah, they made my avatar as a character from my Unbound series that I wrote. I don't know if you guys have read Unbound, but
I like the Garvey cover for #1 on that.
Oh yeah.
That's cover C.
You would like that one. You love your Garvey. But yeah,
I was his first interview that he did ever.
Oh, look at you! We're trying to get him back for our VIP event too, so he might be on there as well.
I'm trying to get him back for another interview, and I got to introduce him.
Or not? How did you get? I need to know how you got him, so we can get him back.
We communicate with signals.
Yeah. So like the Second Life thing's really cool. We just dropped that teaser today. If you guys want to check it out, it's on our Twitter. I know that much. I don't know if we post it on Facebook or not, but we will. It's my voiceover too. It's my great voiceover work. You don't want to miss that. So,
and I like it. I like it because there's a lot of fun stuff going on with Second.
And he was drinking during this interview. I'm very concerned about him. Clearly.
I'm glad everybody's concerned about me. I assure you, in 10 to 15 minutes for my second interview, it's going to be way more concerning.
Who's your second interview?
Shelby Paris from LFC, and
Shelby Paris from LFC. I don't know.
Well, everybody can stay on and just continue watching on YouTube after this interview ends, and she can wait a minute.
Shelby Paris, is she a wrestler?
She's a wrestler, boxer type.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But obviously, I mean, Second Life, and so that's sort of dropping. And then the final thing I want to talk about briefly is conventions, because I know that MegaCon is, I think, next week. And I think that's the first con back for Zenescope. And I don't know if it's still on or not because the entire world is still crazy. And then New York Comic Con, I don't know what's going to happen. I obviously live in Connecticut.
MegaCon will be on because it's Florida, and we know how that goes. And then New York, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen in New York.
I mean, and even going further into that, where do you think even cons are going? Because obviously I'm sitting out the rest of the year. For financial reasons, and also I want to let the dust settle, and it's sort of a down year for me anyway, and so I'd rather come out swinging in 2022 versus sort of come out half swinging in 2021.
Well, where do I think they're going for next year or this year?
This year and even next year, and even how they're just because.
I was hoping everything would come back with a bang, but now we have this Delta variant and people are not. I think with my prediction, this is a Ralph Tedesco prediction, for what it's worth, I think we're going to see vaccinations bump up now because people are making it harder for the world's making it harder for people who aren't being vaccinated to stay unvaccinated. For better or for worse, that's what's happening. So I do think you're going to see more vaccinations over the course of the next few months. We'll probably be able to get to that 75% threshold. Maybe we have to hit 80%. I don't know what that threshold looks like. I don't foresee us shutting down again, but I do think the conventions for this year could be in some trouble. I can see some shutting, these big events just canceling because they don't want to be super spreader events until they get more vaccinations.
I'll give you something that sort of just dropped about the Javits Center. So Anime NYC takes place in the Javits Center. I think they take place afterwards in November. and they're requiring vaccination cards in an email, and they're requiring masks. So clearly, I mean, I think that, and if that's in November, or it might even be in September, I don't know which one it is. It's either before or after. I think New York Comic Con is going to follow the same.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're going to definitely require vaccination cards. I think that already came out, and I think they'll probably require masks. I doubt they'll cancel at this point. I think I don't think it would be feasible. I do think by next year, I'm hoping things will be back to normal, because the economy we can't just shut down over and over again either. So
and it's even
we got to deal with it and just somehow just continue to try to get people to get vaccinated, and pray we get this under control.
So, and even to go further into this, and the other, I guess, half of the question for me is that obviously I love the great digitalization and the digital pivot 2.0. And obviously your virtual cons have done very well. It's benefited me tremendously, because whenever I can get something directly from you guys and I get what I want as a collector, I'm super stoked about it, because it makes my life easier. And so I personally don't foresee that backing out when cons hit. If anything, I see that becoming bigger than ever before, because, if I could get New York Comic Con materials, and I used to live in DC, but if I could stay in my apartment in Washington, DC, or if I'm in, Oklahoma, and I could get, something from you guys at the same time New York Comic Con's coming about, obviously that's a much larger audience.
Yeah, and we'll continue to do the virtual cons as the live Comic Cons return. I think we'll still be doing monthly virtual cons. We might not do them as in depth. They might not be 3-day. We're really not going to be doing that many more 3-day events anyway. They're just a lot. And we found that people like the 2-day events a little bit better. So we'll probably continue doing at least the 2-day, 1 to 2-day events throughout the year.
A 3-day event makes sense on San Diego and New York Comic Con.
San Diego, yeah, we definitely did. This year we did the 4 days. We did preview.
It makes sense on those, because those are the 2 biggest cons in the United States.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm just talking about our own virtual streams, doing the 3-day versus the 2-day versus sometimes over this year. Last year we did the November one was just a 1-day con. We found that doing the 2 days are pretty, you can still do a lot of programming, because the fun thing with our virtual cons is I think people like that they're casual. We have a lot of fun. We do silly stuff. We sometimes me and Amber and me doing a bartending competition on there. But we'll also do some panels. We'll do some cool interviews, and then we'll have the sales, So it's mixed, it mixes things up. And that'll get me. And I'll say this before, I know I have to roll in 5 minutes and you have to get another guest on, but that leads me into the VIP event, which is coming up later this month, August 20th and 21st. So that's for the VIPs only. And if you're a Zenescope VIP, it's easy to join. I mean, if you're not a VIP, it's easy to join. It's only $99 for life. And you get so much access to stuff. You're a VIP, so you could sell it maybe better than I can. And heck, it's worth it.
So I'll just go right into it to explain. So you get points. Your points can be redeemed for a variety of things, cash back. I don't know if you guys are going to be adding anything else into that in the future or not. Obviously, my dog Hope, she likes VIP as well, and so she likes VIP, and then obviously she's speaking wonderful about it. But sorry, everybody, my mom's going to get my dog. But as I was stating. Give me a minute.
Your dog's now endorsing VIP, which is important.
My cute princess of a dog.
Your princess of a dog loves the VIP. It's all you need to know. Just listen.
So as I was stating about VIP, it's $99. You pretty much get a certain amount of points per purchase. And as you get more points, you get, more, your points count, I guess. It's a good way to put it. And then you get a bunch of, I think, 2 or 3 books to join. I think it's 2 books and then an art print. And then you just get access to stuff. You get access to emails. You get access to VIP books that are only VIP books. And then you also just get access to some other stuff as well. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that is done with it, not to mention that you get to come to the VIP event. And then when live cons return, you get, a free gift at conventions when you mention VIP. Also, this is not to take you out of your shops. So if you shop at your local comic shop, your receipt, what you do is you take a picture of it and send it to, VIP at Zenescope.com. And there you go. You get points for that. And then all your purchases on the web store up to the year date. So if you join in September and you made $1,000 worth of dollar purchases, that will count up to the year date for it. Also, VIP never expires. You get a birthday book. And what else? What else?
I mean, you know more than I do, it seems. Where's Amber? We should have brought her on. Amber should be your next guest. Why don't you ask Amber to do your she'll do your show.
I don't know. I don't know how to get in contact with Amber.
I'll introduce you. Amber, do Andrew's show. She's great. You'll love her.
Yeah, we can do that. And, I'll get Jason on too, and we'll talk about Fast Times at Richmond High.
But I don't know. I think Amber would be awesome on this show, and she could talk. She'll talk to you. I'm down. We can drink. Maybe she'll drink with you.
Hey! I drink on Thursdays. I drink on Thursdays. That's what I do. It's Thursday, guys.
Oh, you're sober now. That's perfect.
And so obviously,
you were drinking with Raven on one of your podcasts, on one of your streams.
That was a Friday night. Friday night, and that was a phenomenal interview.
Amber just accepted. Look at that. I'm getting you guests. Okay, listen.
On that note, obviously, I'm just going to give you the final word before I get myself in trouble and get canceled.
Don't get canceled. Go ahead. Don't want you canceled.
Because you guys still need me. That's what it's all about.
We need Andrew. We do. We had Andrew as a guest on our show, so that's there you go.
So having said all that, I obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. I want people to obviously support Zenescope, back the Kickstarter, obviously buy stuff from Zenescope. There's a bunch of stuff coming out. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a holiday cover coming out. I know the cereal cover is going to be up, not in the subscription box, and it's simple Appley. And then obviously Second Life's dropping tomorrow. Kickstarter, I didn't already mention it, and everything else. And if you're not a VIP event's coming. So if you sign up right now for VIP, you get access to that. And you get a good time, because I was in the VIP event last year. A lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of great programming, and you could also be part of that as well. So obviously, I'm going to give you the final word on anything I missed, or how can people find and buy stuff from Zenescope.
Final word. Okay. Go to Zenescope.com and buy everything you can fit in your cart. That's it. Just go to Zenescope.com. Follow us. Please follow us on our social medias. Everything's at Zenescope. We also started a TikTok as well at Zenescope. We're in the midst of working the kinks out of our TikTok videos. But needless to say, follow us at Zenescope on everything. That would be ideal. And then join us for our VIP event in a few weeks. Yeah, less than 3 weeks. It'll be a lot of fun. So email Adrian, just email VIP@Zenescope.com, and she'll get you details. That's it.
And on that note, I believe that is a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you